You or someone you love is a high-achieving executive or entrepreneur. Others expect you to have it all together all the time. But the truth is this: it takes a tremendous amount of energy and hard work. You've sacrificed a lot and are wondering if it's really worth it. People make changes for one of two reasons: from the rock bottom of desperation or from a point of inspiration. In this new 12-week pilot series, we explore the following themes. Unlock your intuition and unleash your true potential as a high-achieving executive. Transform your company culture and elevate your leadership with unique perspectives and group intelligence. Choose inspiration over desperation and embark on a journey of personal and professional growth. Discover the power of intuitive wisdom and group intelligence to transform yourself and your company with Amanda and Suzette's groundbreaking new series, Freedom Flow Fridays. Amanda and Suzette are on a mission to support the transformation of executives and their companies, teaching them how to access intuitive wisdom and harness the power of group intelligence through embracing unique perspectives of individuality. Suzette and Amanda have joined collaborative forces to give high-achieving executives and A-player business leaders a new personal foundation, empowering themselves to upgrade the culture for themselves first, and then for their companies. So be sure to join Amanda and Suzette every Friday morning, 8 a.m. PST, live on LinkedIn, and together we will unblock the flow of your freedom week by week.
I think I'm getting better at this. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Here we are, episode 5 of Freedom Flow Fridays. Can you believe that we're almost halfway through this experiment? Yeah, so when we started out with this idea, we were just like thinking of ways that we could join forces and collaborate, because Amanda and I, we both graduated from a program from the Heart Math Institute, and that's where we met. And it's really such an expansive thing, heart intelligence. And it's so broad that there is several applications of this science. So Amanda her superpower is working with sea levels in crisis, and my superpower is applying the science in the co-creation of inclusive cultures. So how we complement each other is that, say for instance, someone, is interested in getting into the accelerator, but for some reason they just can't get unstuck. Maybe they get stuck at the starting line. There's something that they've got to work through, and when that kind of scenario happens, I know that Amanda has my back. Like, I could pull her in. See, that's how we collaborate, not just on this project, but also in our client work, because if there is if there's something that needs a little more attention, and I know she is gifted at this, it's like, this is a one-on-one thing. This is a person that she's the one I'm going to pull in for the engagement. And this is how we work as a team, even though we're not of the same companies. Like, we're not above collaborating on client engagements. And I have to say that it took us a few years to get to this place, but a lot of intuition came, from our respective senses. Like, we followed our intuition, we kept in touch, and for a little while it was just kind of touch and go, but just somehow that connection was always there, and like, there was always that camaraderie there, and I always really appreciated Amanda being so kind to me, like when we first met, and she's just always been an amazing person to work with, to know.
Thank you.
But it intuition, though, it played a big part, though, right, in us actually even coming together to do this project. And Amanda, did you want to kind of add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so many things we could potentially put on our plate to do. Like, there's time is limited, and our capacity to handle things, we can build our capacity, but at some point too, we can only charge our battery to, so much. So how do we decide who to interact with? How do we decide what's important? And, in today's social media world, there's so many potential interactions that could occur. And how do we know what are the ones to move forward on? And that's where intuition comes in. There's this feeling, there's this knowing, there's this, what I call, it adds to the vital energy, right? So vital energy is this unlimited capacity that we each carry to live a joyful and fulfilled life. So when I'm working with clients, it's really thinking about what adds to that vital energy and what detracts from that vital energy or extinguishes that vital energy. So when it comes to interacting with people in general, we want to think about, how does that person impact my vital energy? And when intuition is at play and we make that connection, when we get off of that call, or even during the call and the interaction with that person, where is our vital energy? Are we expanded when we get done, or are we contracted? And so that is one thing. After, every interaction we had, Suzette, it was like expanded, just blah, 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 blah. We had all sorts of things to talk about. And yeah, I see that. And we could complete each other's sentences. And so that's where, intuition guided us to first connect, and then continuing to listen to our own intuition was, am I a better, more expanded person after getting off the phone or after getting off a Zoom with Suzette? So, and we've had so much fun together.
Yeah, we really have. And we've both have had our experiences with cultures that don't really flow. And so we, when we're talking about unblocking the flow, like we know what we're talking about. Like, and so especially when it comes to unblocking the flow, intuition plays a very, very, very important role, because your intuition is the connection to your true self, where your blueprint for life is. And not having your intuition online is like having a telephone plugged to the wall, but the cord's cut. So the signal from the wall to the phone, or let's talk about a cell phone. When the cell service is not there anymore, the phone's not going to work. So it's that intuition is your cell signal. It's your cell signal. And the heart is like, so the heart is like the cell phone. The heart is like the cell phone that receives the signal so that you can hear it and make use of the insights that you receive from the information. Because there's a lot of information energetically around us all the time. But like Amanda was saying, there's so much that we have a natural defense mechanism that blocks out the unnecessary, things, or whatever is going to overload it, moves it off the plate so it can focus. And that's just a defense mechanism. That's just, but we can miss a lot of things. And especially when we're living up here more than we are in the heart, when we're living in the head more than we are in the heart, that's a very stressful place. And it is a big contributor in burning out. So intuition is so important. It's not only our connection to our true selves, connection to our life's blueprint. Every answer we need for our lives, for ourselves, is in here. So intuition is very, very, very important. It's our inner GPS. And what happens when we, so there's 3 points Amanda and I talked about before we jumped on, because we always do that. So number 1 is we're all born with it. We're all born with this intuition. We're all born with an inner battery. We're all born with this equipment, right? Point number 2, it's like a muscle. Okay? Intuition is like a muscle. If you don't work it out on a regular basis, what you don't use, you will lose. That's key to understand. What you don't use, you lose. And think about muscles. When we don't work out, or if we don't, it's like you start going to the gym, right? But you're not going to get all super toned overnight either. So just like building muscles, intuition also takes time to build. And the point number 3 is, without intuition, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you will not be able to connect to your true self. And if you cannot connect with your true self, you won't be able to align with your true self, because you're not connected. So in order to become self-aligned, there must be that connection with that true self. And intuition is the bridge, the way to connect with our true selves and our own divinity, our own spiritual essence that is always guiding us in the direction that we are meant to walk in this lifetime. But if we don't go there, a lot of us don't trust ourselves. That's another thing. Without intuition, when you don't use your intuition, it's not going to be very strong. You're probably not going to trust it. And as a result, you're not going to trust yourself. And that not trusting yourself is debilitating. And I think I want to get Amanda to jump in on that point too, about trusting oneself and debilitating when we don't trust ourselves.
Yeah, so that's one of the main reasons that clients start to work with me. You know, people make changes for one of two reasons, I always say. It's from that point of desperation, that rock bottom of desperation, or from a point of inspiration. And so we hope by sharing our stories and sharing stories with our clients that we can inspire people to change. But it's from that rock bottom point of desperation that most people change. And that rock bottom for my clients often was as a result of not listening to themselves. So sometimes it's a decline in health, that they didn't listen to the body's whispers and the body just kept yelling at them until it screamed. And another big one with my clients is a failed personal investment or a mistake that was related to a big, huge dollar sign. So they make, one mistake and then they go into guilt and shame about that. And that just spirals them downhill. So when we get to the root of why that mistake was made or why they didn't listen, it's always that they were in their 6-year-old self. Right. So what happens is they made a decision from a triggered autonomic nervous system or a depleted one too. It doesn't always have to be triggered in the moment, but basically they didn't have good access to their brain. So their heart was in an incoherent rhythm, which shut down access to the frontal lobe, put them in their reactionary brain. And they made a big decision from a place of reaction versus their executive functioning and good situational awareness. So, but then what happens is because they didn't use their intuition to make the decision, they made the decision from a place of fear, which fear has a stimulatory effect. We make our decisions from one of two places. It's from a place of fear or a place of intuition. And oftentimes the difference is super subtle, like super subtle. It's in the same area of our body, but one is contracting and one is expanding. So that causes us to second guess ourselves. But once we really know and can tap into that intuition, we can trust ourselves. We can't always give all the rational reasons as to why we should trust ourselves. We try to, and that causes us so often to spin the wheels. So when it comes to intuition and knowing the right decision to make for self-trust, it is very much a feeling. It's not like, and you'll even hear yourself say that. So when you hear yourself say, I'm like, I think this, I think that, I think we should, that's from the brain. Okay. But I feel like this, there's something to this, but I'm not sure why. That's intuition. Right? Especially if it's a gentle, I feel like, if it's a harsh contracting, I feel like, but usually when it's fear, it's somebody else's voice telling us we should be doing something. So that's another thing to watch out for is we should do such and such. And I always ask, whose voice is that? And sometimes it's the voice of a previous version of ourselves, right? Who did make decisions based on fear. So when it comes to circle back to what Suzette was first asking about, so the self-trust, when we know how to access our intuition consistently, we can trust ourselves. It's that simple.
Yeah. It's so important, intuition, and it's used to feel into what is real around us. Our intuition is our ally when we can strengthen it. And there are practices, there are things that we can do on a daily basis to work that muscle out. I mean, if you're going to the gym to work out your body, why aren't you taking 15 minutes a day to work out your intuitive muscle, your resiliency? And what's really cool is that as you are strengthening your intuition, you're also strengthening your resiliency. It's because it's the same process to increase it's the same process to increase your intuition is it comes from the same, it's the same as when you're building your resilience capacity, when you are plugging the energy drains that are, a lot of us have so many leaks, so many energetic drains that are draining our our inner battery. And intuition helps us to drop into those leaks. Intuition is the bridge that allows us to, it's our sense of the undercurrents. With our intuition, we can sense the undercurrents. And those undercurrents are like breadcrumbs in a forest, in the middle of a forest. You know, there's no clear way out, but you've got some bread. You don't know where you are, but these little breadcrumbs, they show you where, you know, which way to go. And that's what your intuition is. In the middle of uncertainty, it's the breadcrumbs that you can follow once you're able to tune into those undercurrents to sense where's the disharmony coming from. You'll be able to go into a room, a collective room, and you'll be able to tune in to different people, and you'll be able to tune in to the undercurrents that are theirs. You're going to start to notice these things. And this is the kind of skill that's needed when you're talking about cultural transformation, because you're dealing with collective energy. And if you are going to be transforming your culture, you need to be able to step into the model, the embodiment of the culture that you're looking to co-create. That's intuition also. It requires intuition also to do that.
Yeah. So Suzette, maybe we share, maybe we circle back to what you said just a few moments ago about intuition, and access to intuition is very similar to what we need to do to plug the energy drains.
Yep.
So what you were getting at is coherence. Coherence is the rhythm of the heart, and the rhythm of the heart opens the highway up to the frontal lobe. So let's just remind our listeners, if they didn't catch one of our earlier episodes, how to access that coherent state. So we just teach a heart-focused breathing technique. This is out of the Heart Math Institute. So you want to focus your attention in the area of the heart right here at the chest level. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of that region. Breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual. Find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. So we just breathe right through the chest area. It's called heart-focused breathing. Your eyes can be open or your eyes can be closed. This sets the rhythm of the heart to give you access to that frontal lobe and increase your situational awareness and tune into that intuitive wisdom. So when our nervous system gets overloaded or overstimulated, what can happen is we don't know what to tune into. So this is a way that we could recenter, we can reground. And the undercurrents that Suzette is speaking of when it comes to culture and being able to sense those, we can sense them from a place of coherence. If we are in a state of irritated, fear, impatient, and we're in an incoherent state, then there's going to be a resonance coming off of us that's adding to the undercurrent, and we're not going to be able to actually sense the undercurrent because there's a resonance and we're not going to recognize that. But when we're in a grounded, coherent state, we can sense the resonances that are not in tune with us.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. You know what I really love about our collaborations, Amanda, is that when I talk, you know, I just let it get really expansive, and you know, I am not afraid to dance on the skinny branches, you know me. and you just balance me out really well. You're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a teaching moment, we got to make this point across. So it was like really, really cool how we can just kind of dance like that. And that's the beauty of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And collaboration produces amazing results when the synergy is there, when you make synergy, which I really feel like we have. Like I've had so much fun these past, 5 episodes, and through all the technical issues, it's been a very enjoyable experience. And we have with us Daniel Knight, Mr. Unicorn.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you for stopping by. Hey there, wonderful people. Yeah. Oh, and he also says collaboration does produce amazing results. And he's like, ha. Yep, I'm right there with you. I totally am right there with you. But again, intuition. Intuition comes into play on so many levels. Like it's not just individual. It's so you've got your personal awareness, you've got your relational awareness, you've got your situational awareness. And all those levels, there's intuition plays a very big part. So whether it's personal, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in our group environments, there's energy happening, there's information happening, and if something's not right, we're going to feel that. We're going to feel that. And instead of saying, I'm just overthinking, we have to stop gaslighting ourselves. We have to stop doing that. If you really want to open up intuition, if you really want to unlock intuition, the best way I've found in my experience is by asking the right questions. Questions are powerful. Like there's a saying that, I don't know who said it, so I have to look it up, but sometimes we have to live into the question. Sometimes we have to live into the mystery. Like the answers are not always going to be right there for us. We have to live the question to get our answer. And people are not comfortable doing that. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about living into the question a little more,
yes.
Amanda?
Yeah, but so let's circle back on that in just a moment. I want to go to collaboration for a moment, because collaboration, intuition are so powerful and so important when we're collaborating with somebody. And even what you and I are doing here, we have to be grounded, coherent, and accessing our intuition to know when to tune into each other and to not overtalk and step on each other. If we were not coherent, if we were, off with our own story in our mind, then it wouldn't flow quite the same way. So when it comes to team collaboration, when it comes to co-facilitation, I've co-facilitated both live and online since 2006. I've done it with a lot of individuals. And sometimes I meet an individual like just once or twice, and then boom, I'm facilitating a course with them because I do a lot of work with subject matter experts. And so they're the subject matter expert, and I'm talking about the nervous system, and they're making it like street level to the audience. So how do you do that? You really have to know how to access the intuition and to feel into. So when I step in to say something, there's the intuition and the feeling sense of, the audience needs to hear this. Like I'm tuning into how can we expand on that a bit more. And, sometimes people will say, well, can you repeat that? And like, when you're in the flow, you can't always repeat because it's not mind-based. It's like flowing through. You're like, oh, well, okay, yeah, I just said something, but I don't know exactly what I said. So when that happens, even the Freedom Flow Fridays, when we find our flow, it takes less energy. And we're not in our head, waiting like, I want to say this, want to say that. So I just want to point that out when it comes to collaboration. Being in a coherent, grounded state with good access to our intuition is absolute key to healthy, good collaboration that actually works. That's the key. So some people, no, collaboration doesn't work, but it might not have worked for them because they haven't done it with a grounded, coherent person, or themselves, they're not grounded and coherent. Yeah. So circling back, do you remember what the question was? I started to write it down and then I didn't.
It's okay. You're present. We're present in the moment, man. Whatever's meant to, we're flowing, girl. Like, whatever's meant to come out. I think we were talking about, la 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 la.
Not meant to be. Not meant to be. So I have authenticity written down too. So I think there's a great opportunity to bring in authenticity here, because our authenticity is really being able to not only tune in, but being brave enough in the moment or courageous enough to share what's coming in from us authentically. And so many of us have natural intuition. As you mentioned, it's one of the points. We're all born with it. We are all born with it. But then what happens is we learn to turn it off because, we share something that's real for us with somebody, a parent or a guardian, something we experienced growing up, and they say, oh, no, girls don't do that, or girls don't say that, or boys don't cry, or whatever that is, they don't have emotions. There's no imaginary friends, whatever it is, we were told, no, in those first 7 years of life. So what then happens is it makes us question the information that's coming through to us. So if it happens in the first 7 to 8 years of life, we exchange that for our attachment survival needs. So we learn to turn off access to that intuition because what was coming in and we shared authentically, somebody said, no, that's not true. That's not reality. And so accessing our own authenticity later on in life, we have to first access and trust that intuition. And sometimes the reason we don't trust it is we turned it down because we felt like early on in life we couldn't trust it because what was coming through, somebody said, no, that's not true. So is there anything you want to expand upon with that, Suzette?
Oh, I remember what we were talking about. It came back to me. So it was meant to be. So it was about living into the question. So basically navigating uncertainty, like we don't have crystal balls, right? We can't, well, no. Anyway, we're not able to really say, this is going to happen for sure. Like everything is not that clear cut. The path is not paved. It's not paved for us. We have to pave our own. We're basically driving the road and paving it at the same time is basically what we're doing when we are moving through uncertainty. And so the process of living through the question can be terrifying because we human beings, we like certainty.
Mm-hmm.
We got to have certainty. The self-preservation kicks in. So when something is uncertain, it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. But that's where the intuition is key, because you can feel into a situation and you can sense the intentions of another person. You can sense it. Mm-hmm. Authenticity is not something that you can just front. You can't fake that. You really, if you're coming from the heart, it's an energy, it's a resonance that people feel. Mm-hmm. So living into the question, it can get really scary. But when our intuition is well developed, suddenly it's like having a candle in a dark room. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly lit up, but you see enough to take the next right step. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's what counts, is that next right step. And little by little, step by step, you move through the challenges, sensing the undercurrents, sensing your personal awareness. Your situational awareness grows, your relational awareness grows. As you develop your intuition, you empower yourself. You become more empowered, because as your intuition develops, your muscles. You have muscles and they get bigger. And the same thing with your intuition. The bigger, the more well developed your intuition, the more finely tuned you're going to be able to sense those undercurrents. This is so key in when we're talking about personal development, because we need to know where we are at any given time. Where am I at right now? How am I feeling right now? Because a lot of us, we just kind of go into auto mode and we don't even realize how we're feeling.
Right.
Then there's the relational awareness. Like when I'm speaking to somebody I care about and I know that they're in pain, because that energy, like they're trying to put a strong face on, but that pain is coming through the happy face. Like you feel it. And then with collective awareness, situational awareness, if you're amongst a group of people who really care about you and they just admire you even with your flaws, and they know that you are a good human being and that you have a good heart, and they treasure that. There's a mutual honoring there, versus being in a group environment where you're made to feel like there's something wrong with you. You're too much this, you're too much that, you're not enough this, you're not enough that. Any group that makes you feel bad about yourself, they are not your people.
Say that again, Suzette.
They are not your people. People, they are not your people. They're not your people. And it's neither here nor there, neither good or bad. It just is what it is. And see, but having that intuition, like if I didn't have a well-developed intuition, like mine developed out of necessity for surviving in my life, to the point where I was like for a long time hypervigilant. So it was getting into that coherent state that I was able to then get my nervous system under control, get my inner child to stop hijacking my bus. And then suddenly it's like, okay, I can deal with it. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. I'm good. I can still love humans for our shared humanity. I can still do that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be like it's just one of those collective honoring that we are human. Yeah. Go ahead.
Everybody has their own tribe. That's what's really important too, as you just shared. Like, we are not going to be everybody's cup of tea, because we can't be everybody's cup of tea. We see life through a certain perspective, through a certain story lens. And what I call it is the story behind our eyes. What are the life experiences that we have each had individually? There are no two that are identical and the same. Even two people seeing the exact same situation will interpret it differently because of the story behind their eyes. And so there's also this concept of we're humans and tribal beings called Dunbar's rule, I think is what it's called, that we can really only have 150 different close social interactions at one time. We are not meant to connect with everybody. We can't remember enough to talk to everybody and have an interaction and connect with them. So that's what I mean when I say, there's a tribe for everybody. And so if there's not a resonance, if people don't make you feel good about yourself, it just means that there's not a resonance. There's a tribe for them. There's a tribe for you. Right. And so sometimes we're stuck with a certain circle of people who we don't resonate with, and we think that we're the outcast. But really what needs to happen is we need to step away, pull away, and go find our tribe. And Suzette and I both have amazing tribes. So when people say like, I don't know, like, come hang out with us, we'll share our peeps with you, because we both have amazing, wonderful conscious connections and great tribes. But even within our own tribes, we're a little bit different too.
Oh my goodness. I have to say, even in the most enlightened communities, you're going to have clique culture. I mean, because it's human nature to connect and to form groups and to, so it's a natural human thing. But what happens is where it gets there is a very fine line. Just if they're not making you feel bad about yourself, if their opinion of you is not something like there's something wrong with you and they're making you feel bad about yourself, that's a red flag. And yes, they're not your people. There are other people that are. And even in the most enlightened communities, we can have division. We can have disagreements. We can have the human experience. Like, we can't get away from that. Like, just because we're conscious people, we still have our biases. We still have our perceptual frameworks that we try to project onto other people, like if we're not aware of it. And that's another piece that intuition helps with is, how am I looking at this person? Mm-hmm. How am I relating? Am I projecting? Like, asking the right questions. That is the way to really activate. And that's the point that I was making earlier, is asking the right questions. So when we are in an uncertain time, when we are having challenges, the question that always helps me is this: what is the gift behind the challenge? Am I being asked to forgive? Am I being asked to, am I learning how to anchor into my own truth better? What am I learning here? What is the gift? There's something behind the challenge that if we focus on the gift instead of the challenge, if we focus on the gift that's behind the challenge, that's when the challenge, that was the lesson. That was the lesson. The challenge usually turns into a door, or it disappears, or it turns into an opportunity. It transforms from a challenge to a blessing. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to me with my childhood trauma, because I get triggered by, for a long time, I got triggered by exclusionary environments. I got triggered by group dynamics. Never tried. Just it's a pattern. It was a pattern, and working through it, in addition to the inherited stuff, was very challenging. And thank goodness that my life could have turned out so differently had I not used my own intuition, had I not learned to trust myself, because for a long time I allowed the outside world to tell me who I was. Mm. And I was believing a lot of stuff that I was like, why am I even alive? And then I had a spiritual awakening happening, and one thing led to another. And I found my way back into my heart. And I found my way into a new kind of work. So my greatest wound is becoming my life's work and calling, because I've worn both shoes. I've worn the shoes of a business owner. I have a real estate company. It's gonna be almost 30 years that I've been in real estate, and my company since 2002. And I've also worn the other shoes of that person who always fell out of the in-groups, who was, no matter where I found myself, there was just like, I was caught in a pattern that was stuck in my repressed memory, playing out until I was able to bring it to the surface with that question. Because that's how I brought that repressed memory back up from the depths of my subconscious was after a very triggering event, I knew that I had to use my own tools and practice what I teach. And I really just dropped into my inner self and I just asked the question, what is the gift behind the challenge in this situation? Why is it that in my life I've had patterns of I'm getting into a group, I'm bending myself in a pretzel so that they'll like me, and then like because I'm not being true to myself, I can't keep myself in a box, and then I pop out of the box, and then it's like, ugh. So it's like, okay, on to the next, and then pretty soon it was like, I just don't want to deal with people. And I became really, really socially anxious. And it affected me so bad that if I was in a social situation, like my rest area was the bathroom. Like as soon as I got a little overloaded, I'd have to like take trips to the bathroom just to sit in a stall and breathe and get the anxiety down, because I had all this stuff going on. But it was stuff that I didn't know was going on. I was just reacting to it. It was creating my life. And I was just reacting to it, which was then putting it out there for more things to put out for me to react to. And my intuition was that candle that helped me navigate. And it was a long journey for me because I had to get to the point where that repressed memory came back. But it was my intuition that helped me get in touch with the gift behind the challenge, which is, for me, forgiving. Keeping an open and forgiving heart no matter what. Because when we don't heart armor, our heart armors up, and then we get cold, then we get embittered. And that energy is a repelling energy. We will repel with that. But if we keep our hearts open, keeping the heart open, forgiving, allows us to stay with it. Let it move through, and we just become stronger. And what it taught me was, if I keep a forgiving heart, my allies can recognize me. They'll be able to find me better. They'll be able to see me better. They'll be able to know. They'll be able to recognize my energy. And I will attract my allies than if I allowed my heart to armor up and now I'm just taking it out on everyone around me. Energy never lies. And I know I've taken up a ton of time, so I'm going to give it up to Amanda.
Sure. No, that was great. You were right in the flow of story, which is wonderful. So so one of the questions I love to ask, my background is originally my first career was I was a physical therapist, a doctor of physical therapy for 23 years. And now the one little piece of that shadow career, I call it, is that I maintain is helping people process trauma out of their body. So when somebody is in a full-on trigger, my favorite question to ask is, when else have you felt this? And then my second favorite one to ask is, when is the first time you remember feeling this? And oftentimes that's just that question coming from my loving heart, and boom, we tap into it. And there's an energy release. Emotions are energy in motion. So there's an energy release. So oftentimes there's a cry, and well, when I was 4 years old, when I was 7 years old, this happened. My mom was always busy. This isn't my story. This is one of my clients. He was feeling unseen and unheard. And I asked the question, when's the first time that you remember feeling this way? Well, when I was young, my mom was a single mother, and she didn't have time to like interact with me. And I would be at daycare for long hours, and she didn't come to see my school functions because she was constantly working. And, I always wondered, is she going to be there? Like, was she going to pick me up from things, or was she going to send somebody else to do that? So what he needed to do is to release the energy that was trapped in him from that. And that was the question that allowed him to do that. And then one of the next questions we can ask is, what is the blessing behind this challenge? What is the gift behind this challenge? And so often it's to develop the superpower is the opposite of the depleting emotion the person was being pulled into. So if somebody is being pulled into sadness, contraction, not being seen, not being heard, the opposite of that is expansion, love, compassion, care. Right. And look at your story, Suzette. Like you went from contraction to what you're doing in building community. Like your superpower is the opposite of that.
And that is so, I know, right? I went from hiding in bathroom stalls to now connecting people.
Really that's exactly how it works.
Yeah. So questions. Questions are powerful. If we ask the right questions, we can unlock our intuition. Asking questions is powerful. In fact, the best coaches, the best mentors in the world know that the power lies in the question, not in fixing people. Coaches and mentors are not here to fix us. They are here to lend their valuable experience, but at the same time, recognize that what they might perceive as the right way might not be the right way for a client. So the thing to do is to just ask the right questions.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That's pretty much all I do all day is ask questions, because nothing will take somebody to an immediate change the way their own aha moment does. So my background in transformational education, it's not teaching somebody something as an expert, it's transforming their thinking. And so you really, by asking questions and the right questions, it allows that person to have that aha moment and their nervous system will never be the same. I always say, like, what can you not unknow? Because your perspective is different. Once you unlock that aha moment, your perspective shifts and everything is different for you. And that's one of the joys. I love that look of the aha moment, because they'll never be the same. They can't unknow what they just discovered.
It's, that is one of the most rewarding things about this work, is that we work on such a deep level that we get to see when the lights turn on. And it's such a beautiful thing, because a lot of people are just meeting themselves for the very first time, because they've been they've been disconnected from their true selves. So questions, asking the right questions. Like if you want to, and I would love to get a transcript and maybe what I'll do is I'll pull the questions that we presented here and put it on the replay, like the 3 questions or however many questions we talked about. But my alarm's going off. So anyway,
it would be fun. It would be super fun. If somebody wanted, and we would offer this, that if somebody wanted to be coached live, essentially, give us some background, give us some information, and we can ask the questions, that would be so much fun. So if anybody, is that something that would be cool with you, Suzette? We could have somebody on here that shares an experience and we could do some of the live coaching. Yeah, super fun. So reach out to Suzette if that interests anybody.
Yep, that's true. That would be really fun. Like, what would we call that episode? I guess we can talk about that afterwards, huh? But that would be fun. Yeah, just put out the invitation to get some coaching on next up. But that would be great. Wow, good idea.
Live coaching, so much fun.
Great idea. Finally, that beeping stopped. I forgot to turn that off. I tell you, every time we do an episode, there's something that goes haywire. Anyway, so it's done.
Life is inconvenient.
It's inconvenient, I know.
Yeah, life is not.
So yeah, so we've got little less than 5 minutes. So questions are powerful. Words are powerful. How we talk to ourselves is powerful. Intuition is critical. It's critical to develop the intuition. And I heard the term called informed intuition, and that's where you get all of the necessary, information and learn all you can about a certain issue or whatever, and then you make and then you use informed intuition to make decisions. It's not a pie in the sky premonition, okay? Mm-hmm. There's a way to apply intuition in a practical, useful, effective way. And yeah.
Well, and I just want to reiterate, like, it's not that pie in the sky. It's not psychic abilities. It's this inner knowing that you have to learn to trust, right? It's not like this absolute clarity of like, you see the picture of exactly what's supposed to happen. Some people have this misconception that that's what intuition is, that it's absolute clarity. And it's this ability to see. It's not. It's the ability to stay grounded and present and see the little synchronicities that then you have to put together like the puzzle. And then that's when it means something to you.
Yeah, informed intuition is a superpower that can be developed with intention. And I want to just kind of, I want to invite our audience to, so there's some practices that help to exercise intuition. There is contemplative practices, mindfulness meditations, stream of consciousness journaling. So you tap into your intuition, and then you go to your journal and you just start writing and letting it all come out on paper. You're not judging it. You're not trying to make it perfect. You're just letting, even if it's just random thoughts, you're just writing for 5 to 15 minutes once you've dropped into that inner voice and asked a really important question. How do I really feel about this? Like, ask yourself a powerful question, really feel into that question, and then do a stream of consciousness exercise for about 5 to 15 minutes. Do that every day. And just see what happens. See what starts to appear on paper. Like, wow, this came out of me, and I'm starting to see something here. Because not only every time that we do stuff like that, we are strengthening that connection. Mm-hmm. We're strengthening that inner alignment, that inner connection with our true self, that intuition. But I have a little card for us. And did you want to say, so we're going to close out, but before I do, I want to go ahead and see if my lovely co-host wants to close out with something.
I feel complete. Can't wait to hear the card.
Yes, so this card is from the Sacred Rebels guidebook. And the card that I drew, actually picked this card out on the new moon, which is another... We didn't talk about that. By the way, not only is this a new moon, but it's a solar eclipse. And so the energies are going to be really kind of chaotic right now. So self-care, please. Okay, so the card I drew on the new moon, trust yourself, which is right in line with the theme for this week. So I'm really, really encouraged. So I'm going to read to close us out. And here we go. You are wise. You know how to grow, even without knowing how you know. Like the ancient forests, spectacular galaxies, and the acorn that becomes the oak. There is a natural intelligence for growth that is beyond logic and reason. It just happens. At the deepest levels, we are governed by this force that is so palpable, it literally shapes the world. At the same time, it is so invisible that sometimes we forget its presence and worry that our minds have to work everything out for life to happen and for us to be all right. We can become unnecessarily anxious about our affairs and how life will unfold. This oracle brings the message that you are growing. You really are. Don't doubt it. Even if you don't see it yet, remember that so much is happening when the seed is still unbroken in the ground. Below the earth, it is summoning up all the might, power, and force it needs to push above the topsoil and burst up into the light. It is essential for anything good to happen later on. Yet we don't see any of that. We just have to trust that things will happen when the time is right. You are also being asked to trust yourself. You know how to grow. Don't ever think things. It won't help you. Don't overthink things. It will not serve you. This below the earth, it is summoning up all the might into the light. It is essential for anything good to happen later on, yet we don't see any of that. We just have to trust that things will happen when the time is right. You are also being asked to trust in yourself. You know how to grow. Don't overthink things because it won't help you. Don't worry so much. You are doing a great job in this game of life. When you trust yourself, you relax and you can heed your own wisdom, insight, and messages much more clearly and easily. This oracle comes with particular guidance. You have a big destiny in this lifetime and much to experience. Sometimes you make the error of judging something that is unpleasant as negative or a mistake. It isn't. It's just part of your great hunger for experience. It doesn't mean you have to have a lot of it. But when you do, don't shame yourself for it. Simply let it be. Maybe it's just fertilizer for your next step on the path. It's all part of your life process, and it's a sign of growth. This oracle is also telling you not to resist any points of instability in your life. This even applies to your most treasured relationships or creative projects. That instability is just a growing pain because more consciousness, more love, and more light wants to infiltrate and pervade all parts of your life. The instability is not a sign of sickness, but of growth. So don't fret. Instead, choose to flow and grow. My perfectly imperfect reading, but hey, wow. I like the end where it talks about flowing and growing because that's what we're all about here. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. My goodness.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Well, we have come to that time again, and I've got a treat for Amanda. She's never seen this new outro I created for our show, so this is going to be her first time seeing it, and I'm so excited. Okay, so thank you for joining us. My name is Suzette West, and my
Amanda Carpenter. Carpenter. Thank you, Suzette, for all you do. Bring this forward and to stream it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody have a wonderful week, and can't wait to see you next week.
Bye.